मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्म एधि वेदस्य मणिस्थ श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनाधीतेनाहुरात्रान् संदधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Om. May my speech be firmly established in my mind. May the mind too be firmly established in my speech. O self-effulgent Lord, be revealed in my consciousness. May the truths of the scriptures shine forth in my life. May not what I learn from them ever forsake me. Let me live my life day and night according to their teachings. I shall speak what is appropriate. I shall speak the truth. May that protect me. May that protect the teacher. Om. Peace, peace, peace. Let us feel the center of our consciousness. Our true self. Let us dissociate ourselves from all the temporary identities like that of body, the family, the work that we do. Let us feel that I am none of that. I am the consciousness, unchanging, undivided, infinite, all-pervading. I am the existence eternal. Beyond limitations of time and space. I am perfection itself. I am bliss itself. Om. Peace, peace, peace. So revered Krishna Prana Mataji and all friends, let us begin today's study of this great biography of Sri Ramakrishna. Unique biography because, as we saw, it brings out all the inner intentions or inner feelings of Sri Ramakrishna along with the external facts or events of the life. And we saw the special need to do this in case of the incarnation of God. For ordinary people, the actions and the events, they more or less express the intention as well. It expresses the inner feelings because the actions are done with those intentions and that kind of emotions and feelings. So, for example, when we see a person getting red-faced, eyes throwing fire as it were, the body vibrating, and the voice loud and full of aggression. And we see that the inner feeling, what? Certainly not happiness and joy. There is the anger that this external appearance indicates. When somebody we see moving to get something and moving intensely with all concentration, then we see that the person has the desire for that object. So the external actions are indicative of the inner these feelings or awareness or desires. The inside can be judged from the outer symptoms. That is what the psychotherapists try to do. They don't see the mind exactly, but because whatever is in the mind appears in the external behavior, by studying the behavior, they come to some conclusion about the inner workings of the mind. And that is the method that is used for most people, and to some extent it works. But with incarnations, the problem is it is like the play, drama. And in drama, the actors show certain reactions on the external persona. But inside there is nothing like that. It is because of the acting, that script is there. Like Hamlet will be showing all this terrible depression and confusion and conflicts, uh, all sorts of doubts coming, will be just depicted by an expert actor. The face will be showing that, the behavior will be showing that, but inside the actor there are absolutely no corresponding emotions. So the actor is just doing the acting. It is there is the feelings are completely different. Hey, I am doing so well. I am acting so nicely. It is, and when it is done with that, the people watching the play get deceived, but not the actor. The actor is fine there. In fact, the more the people feel that it is real, the actor takes it as a great reward. That, yeah, there is an incident that when Girish Chandra Ghosh, a famous Bengali actor and a great devotee, all the devotees of Sri Ramakrishna know about Girish Chandra Ghosh. He was father of Bengali theatre and a great playwright and actor, director. So he was acting in a play as a villain and was showing all sorts of cruelty and all that. Those feelings were coming up on his face. And there was in the audience, there was the Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, a very compassionate person. As Girish was going to kill that woman, had a dagger or something in the hand, and this Vidyasagar took out his shoe and threw at him. You rascal, drop it right now. And Girish Chandra took it as a great reward for his acting. Now there was no actually the anger or ill feeling, but it was being projected out. So the incarnation of God, do you get it, Charlie? Has no desires. What? Yeah, that will come, thank you. So do you get it? That without any corresponding intentions, the actions are proceeding. This is called Leela, the play. The incarnation of God has no other intention except to impart this wisdom to common people who are suffering because of the lack of it. So as Shankaracharya describes this, Swaprayojana abhave api bhutanu jigrikshaya, very beautiful words, that without any intention or purpose of their own, they have no purpose to be fulfilled, and there is no, therefore, other reason, only the compassion for this suffering people. So that is why they act like human beings. It is acting. So therefore it is so difficult to come to any conclusion like common people's behavior can show what is within them. But looking at the behavior of incarnation, it is impossible to infer the inner workings of their minds, and therefore Swami Saradananda has taken it up in his biography to show this the life of incarnation of God along with the facts. Therefore he has given also the inner intentions, feelings of Sri Ramakrishna. So, let us begin with our opening chant. Tava kathamritam tapta jivanam kavibhiriditam kalmashvapaham Shravanamangalam Shrimadattatam Bhuvi grinanti te bhurida janaha. So, we have been studying the Guru Bhava or the teachership of Sri Ramakrishna, that his acting on this platform of being a guru, a teacher, and the discussion is going on about Gopal Ma, the mother of Gopala, Aghormani Devi. So, various very illustrative incidents have been discussed so far. Now, we shall turn to some incidents in this respect that happened in Kashipur Garden House. So, this is page 698. Moti Lake is situated in front of the garden of Moti Seal, a wealthy man of Kolkata. This lake is next to a road that has been extended northwards from Kolkata to the Baranagar market, over the Baranagar bridge running parallel to the Ganges. The garden house of Gopal Chandra Ghosh, the son-in-law of Rani Katyayani and Lala Babu, is situated on the eastern side of the road along the northern shore of Moti Lake. Sri Ramakrishna lived in this garden house for 8 months, from mid-December 1885 to mid-August 1886, before he passed away. This garden is known to the devotees as the Kashipur Garden House, and it raises in their memories as much joy as grief. One may ask, at what time the master was sick in bed, how was joy possible? That is a very commonly asked question. Master was bedridden, for most part, had excruciating pain due to the growing cancer in the throat. It was spreading fast, and so he was certainly in very intense pain. So, how could there be joy? It is the joy is only because Sri Ramakrishna was always having this experience that there is only divine reality. The bliss is everywhere. That state is such that there is nothing else but bliss. There is like the ocean has these waves, both ocean and the waves, their content is just water, nothing else. The waves are just shapes. So, imagine this is like the ocean of bliss. This ocean of bliss is what Sri Ramakrishna is always immersed in. All the other things are like acting, that yes, there is the pain, but yet this is to be remembered that it is all, when there is the awareness of the body, well, there is pain. When there is no awareness of body, there is bliss. So, when people who were very close to Sri Ramakrishna, they could see this, like Latu Maharaj, Swami Adbhutananda, when he was asked this question, a very nice illuminating discussion, that well, Sri Ramakrishna lived such a sinless life, and yet why did he have to suffer so much? And then Latu Maharaj said, well, first of all, let me tell you that we have never seen him suffering. He was the child of bliss. He was always full of bliss. And so, now what you are talking about as suffering is really not there. It is also part of this acting Leela. The disease comes to the body, and so when I am not body, I don't suffer because of the disease. And not only at Kashipur, but during the life of Sri Ramakrishna, many such incidents had happened, where he apparently fell sick or got injured. There is the very illuminating episode of Sri Ramakrishna's hand, arm getting broken. He fell on the railings, and then the arm got broken, then a bandage was put, and then it is while he used to show everybody, oh, it is giving so much of pain, and this the doctor has put this bandage around, that is making me so uncomfortable. What can be done? When will it be all cured? And one devotee said, you are in happiness. You are not experiencing any pain. It is, you are just showing off that it is, you are in happiness. And it was Sri Ramakrishna exclaimed that this rascal has caught me. So, it is because there is actually no pain. It is showing no pain in the sense when it is connected with body, yes, but he could easily disconnect it from that. When it is to be, the acting is to be done of pain, he was doing it very, very perfectly. That excellent actor. It is, and in dramas you show more these emotions, more crying, more wailing than actually in life you show. So, because you have to overdo to create the impact. So, it is, so Sri Ramakrishna used to do this rather over. Oh, this is happening like this, what will happen, and so forth, crying. But inside there is no such pain or suffering, part of the Leela. So, that is how this Leela was happening at Kashipur. Sri Ramakrishna's life's kind of last episode of his physical existence. So, last 8 months where he lived there for the ostensible purpose of getting proper treatment. So, but there was other inner purpose that Swami Saradananda speaks about here, that it is the master did indeed seem to be bedridden, but with the disease manifesting in his divine body, he classified the devotees into various groups and united them with a wonderful bond of love. Mahapurush Maharaj, Swami Shivananda, therefore told later that actually the Ramakrishna order was established by Master himself at Kashipur in its true inner spirit by binding all these devotees together uh, to form an organization, not formally, but formal organization is less important compared to the informal inner organization. So Sri Ramakrishna himself did these devotees, collected them during this time and classified them. Classified means, as he mentions here, that who is the inner or the outer circle, who was a monk, who would be householder, a jnani or a devotee, and it was here that the conviction that all of them belonged to one family was firmly established. So, everything we have seen this of Swami Saradananda mentioning earlier, that every single action in the life of Sri Ramakrishna has a profound purpose behind it. So, this action of having a disease and then for this purpose going to Kashipur has also a tremendous meaning, that if you see some of the associated events which may not be all mentioned in this book, but some other books have the mention of these, like Sri Ramakrishna was bedridden, but one day Holy Mother brings his food, comes and sees that Sri Ramakrishna is not on the bed. What happened? Where is he? And Sri Ramakrishna came in a minute or so, climbing the stairs as if running, you know. What happened? Where did you go? I saw all these boys. Sri Ramakrishna replies that I saw all these boys going to drink some juice from the date tree nearby, and then I know that there was a big cobra there. So I went and took the cobra away and came back. So this is something that Holy Mother herself saw and reported. So in a way Sri Ramakrishna was sick, so sick that he could not move. There is another incident that that he could not move at all, but then there is this Swami Vivekananda, the Narendranath. He thinks at that time that he has been talking about he being the incarnation of God, the one who was Rama, one who was Krishna, is now Ramakrishna in this body. Now, he said that when his health was good, when an ordinary person, good health, the mind also is enthusiastic and you make so many plans, I will do this, I will do that. When the person falls sick, what happens? The enthusiasm wanes, goes away because the body is not able to do anything now. So he thought, now Sri Ramakrishna is not even able to change the sides himself on the bed. He is not able to eat even the slightest food down his throat. His frame is reduced from a robust, very healthy body to a skeleton. You can see what kind of skeleton body it had become. That picture is not much shown, but very inspiring picture. I like that picture, although it is not shown like that for last few decades, because it hurts devotees' feelings. It is. I rather felt that it is very inspiring to say that Sri Ramakrishna's body had become just a skeleton. You can see in that picture, the picture was taken just after his passing away, before the cremation of the body. All other that his disciples are standing around, and you can, it is such a small figure had become, it is barely visible. You have to see with very close attention that there is this Sri Ramakrishna's body there. It has become so thin. Narendranath thinks, now can he say the same thing? The one who was Rama, who was Krishna, is Ramakrishna, the same person. And even Narendra later reported himself that even before the thought of that kind was complete in my mind, there Sri Ramakrishna gets up and says with a very strong voice, even now doubts? Remember again, the one who was Rama, who was Krishna, is Ramakrishna. Actually, not just in the sense, not in the sense of Vedanta. He says your Vedanta, not in the sense of your Vedanta, but actually in here manifest. Narendranath said that had there been a big lightning striking there, I wouldn't have been so astonished. So imagine, while this was all happening, sick Sri Ramakrishna, and yet he was able to distribute bliss amongst the devotees. Every now and then falling in samadhi, getting into that state of samadhi. When ordinary man has little pain, not so excruciating or anything, even a little headache, then they say, well, I cannot meditate because there is headache. So Sri Ramakrishna going into samadhi, not just able to meditate, but it is so. Therefore, it is important to say. I gave the introduction earlier today because this incident should not be taken as an ordinary sickness. It is not an ordinary sickness, but something that has been taken up for the completion of his divine play. So, and then therefore so many incidents are described here, that inner and outer devotees means many, it is they will be in the not get involved completely in implementing the message of Sri Ramakrishna, and they will be doing it kind of in a secondary way. So, and then there would be some who would be completely dedicating their life for this cause. Then there are some that Sri Ramakrishna said later, in this book it will come, that those who were coming to Sri Ramakrishna to get some physical relief from different diseases, or because of their other family problems, they would stop coming. Because this man is now so sick, cannot cure himself. What can he do to us? And that does happen. I know many who would just turn away. We had one very illumined Swami in Nagpur, disciple of Swami Shivananda, and very highly respected by many as an illumined soul. But he, for a long time, had no lost eyesight, was very sick with bad diabetes, had many other ailments, and was for the most part would be just in an easy chair, would be sitting there, an armchair. So, and then one gentleman heard about it. He was known to me. So he said, "Can I see him?" I said, "Why not? He is just there and we can just see." So I took him there, and this Swami, his name was Swami Bhaskareshwarananda. So looking at him, this man became completely uninterested. Afterwards he told me, "See, this man is so sick. What knowledge does he have? Could not even cure himself. So therefore there is no point in going to such a person." So many think like that. Unless some miracles are shown, nobody understands or feels that there is something there. So Sri Ramakrishna now therefore wants to keep these people away. Those who came hoping for some miracles in their life, now they will run away. Those who are seekers of true spiritual bliss, they alone will remain. So we see this, it is this many incidents are described here. What happened, that at Kashipur, that Narendra experienced Nirvikalpa Samadhi through sadhana, and 12, actually 11 boy disciples received ochre robes from the master. Ochre robes, the sign of monastic life. So they became monks actually by they were given the monastic vows in a symbolic way by Sri Ramakrishna himself. 11 of them. There was a disciple of his called Buddha Gopal, Senior Gopal, and who later became Swami Advaitananda. So he had brought 12 ochre clothes to be given to monks. And Sri Ramakrishna said, "Well, who else are more worthy of being given these robes than these young disciples?" So there were 11 of them, he gave them. All those, we see 16 disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, all were not there at that time. So 11 were given, one was later given to Girish Chandra Ghosh. So that incident also happened here. On 1st January 1886, between 3 and 4 p.m., that the master walked for one last time on the garden path, upon seeing the devotees, he went to in an extraordinary ecstatic mood and exclaimed, "What more need I tell you? May you all be illumined." Saying this, he touched their chest one by one with the palm of his hand and transmitted spiritual power to them instantly. So many things happened in this Kashipur while Sri Ramakrishna was bedridden and sick. Every day a crowd of men and women devotees assembled here as they did in Dakshineshwar. The Holy Mother would prepare food for the master and perform the regular work of the household. Gopal Ma and other women devotees helped her serve the master and his devotees, and some of them spent a night or two there. As we reflect on the wonderful assemblage of devotees at Kashipur, we think that the Divine Mother created the disease in the Master's divine body to fulfill a great purpose. As many of the long-time devotees daily witness the Master's ever-changing divine play, the arrival of new devotees and the Master's blissful form, as well as the manifestation of his wonderful power, they thought that he was feigning this illness for the benefit of humanity, and that he would rid himself of this disease when he wished, and would then become normal as before. So that was how many thought, quite naturally, because of the way Sri Ramakrishna's behavior was. They saw that this Sri Ramakrishna has taken temporarily. But everything was temporarily. The taking up the body also was temporary. For a purpose the body was taken up, and then as the body, the disease also has been taken up. At the Kashipur garden house, the master lived on a soft diet of barley, vermicelli and farina. One day the master expressed a desire to eat palo pudding. There is a footnote, a custard made from the zedori root, whatever it means, zedori root. So it is, he wanted that day that pudding, because host in Calcutta sometimes served it to the invited guest. No one objected to this. He had been eating farina or barley cooked in milk, so there was little chance of aggravating his disease by having some palo pudding. The doctors also approved it. It was decided that Jogin, Swami Yogananda, would go to Calcutta the next morning to buy that pudding. Jogin left for Calcutta on time, but on the way he reflected, palo pudding from the market might be adulterated with other things that could aggravate the master's disease. All the devotees looked upon the master as the life of their lives. So, from the beginning of his illness, they had constantly thought of the master's welfare. It was for that reason that this thought arose in Jogin's mind. He again considered, I did not consult with the master about this before I left. If I have a devotee make the pudding, will he be annoyed? Thinking of these things, Yogin arrived at Balram's house in Bagh Bazar. When asked the reason for his visit, he told the whole story. The women devotees told him, "Why market pudding? We will make it." "But you cannot have it before noon because it takes time to make. You have your lunch here. The pudding will be ready when you are finished. You can take it back at the time in the afternoon." Yogin followed their suggestion and returned to Kashipur with the pudding at about 4 p.m. The master had wanted to eat his pudding at noon. He waited for a long time but had finally eaten his regular meat. When Yogin arrived later, he told the master everything. The master was annoyed and told Yogin, "I wanted to eat the pudding from the market and you were told to buy it. Why did you go to a devotee's house and give them trouble over it? Moreover, this pudding is very rich and difficult to digest. I shall not eat it because the devotees made it very good, very rich to be offered to master, So, therefore, they made it with probably more milk or whatever, but very rich. And so he said it will not suit me at all. And he did not eat it. So he was in a way very strict. Whatever was told, do it. Do not try to think too much about it, that will this be okay. He told to get it from the market, but will the pudding in the market be good or not? Well, that is none of your business when you are told to get it from the market and you said yes you will. Now do it. If it is those were not the days of the cell phones and smartphones that let me text master and ask, can I get it from make some devotees to do it? Master Yogin of course could not text it, could not inform the master about it, took decision on his own against what master had told him. And so master was annoyed, and because he had already eaten, give it to Gopal's ma. Give it to Gopal ma. As Gopala dwells in her heart, so if she eats it, it will be the same as my eating it. We saw how he thought about Balram Basu's family very highly. They had, the women at that place had made it, and so he did not want it to be just discarded. So he said, eat, let Gopal's ma eat it. And then that will be like my eating it. So that was done. When the master passed away, Gopal ma's grief knew no bounds. For a long time, she did not leave Kamarhati to go anywhere. She lived alone in seclusion. After a while, when she began to have visions of the master, as before, her grief came to an end. And we heard many stories of the visions that Gopal Ma had after master passed away. Once she attended the Chariot festival at Mahesh across the Ganges and was overwhelmed with joy as she saw Gopala in all living beings and in everything else. That is a culmination of this sadhana, spiritual practice and spiritual life is culminated when one sees the same God everywhere. Once Sri Ramakrishna told to a devotee who's expressed this desire that I want to see God in everything, everywhere. Sri Ramakrishna said, well, that is the last thing. That is the end result of the spiritual life, seeing God in everything. So, that is how Gopal's Ma now could see this Gopala in everyone, in everything, and that made her life full of such joy that it is. She said that she saw her beloved Gopala in the chariot, in the image of the Lord Jagannath in the chariot, in those who were pulling the chariot, and in the vast crowd. Her beloved Gopala had become manifest in different forms. She was besides herself with joy at this cosmic vision of God and lost outer consciousness of her surroundings in ecstasy. Gopal Ma described this vision to a woman friend, saying, I was not myself. I danced and laughed and created quite a commotion. Whenever Gopal Ma felt despondent, she would visit the master's monastic disciples at the Baranagar monastery to find peace. On such occasions, the monks asked her to cook a few dishes and offer them to the master. Gopal Ma was always delighted to prepare vegetable curries and offer them to the master. When the monastery was moved to Alam Bazar and then to Nilambar Babu's house across the Ganges and then across the Ganges at Belur, Gopal Ma visited those places as well as she was happy in the company of the master's disciple, and sometimes spent a day or two with them. After Swami Vivekananda returned from the West in 1897, Mrs. Sarah C. Bull, Jaya, Miss Josephine MacLeod, and Nivedita, that is Miss Margaret Noble, came to India. One day they went to visit Gopal Ma in Kamarhati and were highly pleased with her conversation and hospitality. Now, what language they must have spoken, imagine. On that day, Gopal Ma saw her Gopal in them and affectionately kissed them, touching their chins. She cordially asked them to sit on her bed and served them puffed rice, sweet coconut balls, and whatever else she had in her room. She narrated some of her visions to them and then asked, and they were overwhelmed. They enjoyed her simple refreshments and asked her for some puffed rice to take back to America. So, in 1904, when Gopal Ma was very ill and incapacitated, she was brought to Balram's house at Bagbazar. When Sister Nivedita heard the wonderful life story of Gopal Ma, she was so impressed that she expressed a keen desire to take Gopal Ma into her own home at Bagbazar, that is 17 Bospara Lane. Observing her eagerness, Gopal Ma agreed to move to her place. As we mentioned earlier, Gopala had slowly removed every vestige of her old orthodox behavior. Imagine this transformation, that she would not be able to even eat something that is touched by any of these people. She would not be able to live with them. All those things were earlier there, and they were helpful at that time to practice the spiritual disciplines that she had. But now the change has happened. Like it was certainly helpful for a person to go to the top floor step by step on the staircase. Keep on climbing. But now, when that person arrives there, now is he going to climb step by step further? There is no step anymore. It is so, the habit of climbing step by step, has to be given up. You will fall if you start climbing where there are no steps. It sometimes happens that if you do not see properly in the darkness, you climb to the top step and then again try to climb one more step. Now there is no step there. So Gopal's mother's all that behavior which was earlier needed as a part of discipline, but now it doesn't have any relevance whatsoever. So look at this transformation, look at this broadness now. So it is one day at Dakshineshwar, when the master was alive, Narendra ate a bowl of goat meat that had been offered to Mother Kali. When he left the room to wash his hands, the master asked a woman devotee to clean that place where he had eaten. Gopal Ma was present, and as soon as she heard the master's words, she immediately removed the Narendra's leavings and cleaned the area. Seeing this, the master joyfully expressed to her other woman devotee, "See how liberal she has become day by day." Gopal Ma then lived at Sister Nivedita's residence, where Nivedita, Swamiji's spiritual daughter, served Gopal Ma just as she would her own mother. Gopal Ma's food was prepared by a nearby Brahmin family. She would go there to have her lunch, and at night one of the family members would bring a few luchis, fried bread, and other things to her room. Gopal Ma lived like this for 2 years. When she was on her deathbed, she was taken to a room on the bank of Ganges. Nivedita decorated her bed beautifully with flowers, sandal paste, and garlands. She invited a kirtan party to sing devotional songs and joined the procession to the Ganges barefooted and with tearful eyes. She stayed with Gopal Ma during her last 2 days in this world. On 8th July 1906, as the rising sun painted the eastern horizon with a reddish hue, a few dim stars in the blue sky were still twinkling as they looked downward towards the earth. When the high tide of the Ganges, the daughter of the Himalayas, flooded both banks with the white waves, and the river flowed with a gentle and sweet murmur, Gopal Ma's body was immersed halfway into that holy water. The five vital forces of her pure life merged into the divine, and she attained the eternal abode of fearlessness. Because none of her relatives was available, a Brahmin brahmachari from Belur Math performed the funeral rite for Gopal Ma and observed the customary rites for 12 days according to the scriptures. At the end of the 12 days, the grief-stricken Sister Nivedita invited to her school building some local women whom Gopal Ma had known and arranged for kirtan, worship and a feast. Gopal Ma left the picture of Sri Ramakrishna that she had worshipped for such a long time to the shrine of Belur Math and bequeathed 200 rupees for the service of the Master. During the last 10 or 12 years of her life, Gopal Ma considered herself to be a sannyasini, a nun, and wore the ochre cloth. So here it ends this chapter, and the story of Gopal's mother, very touching and full of so much instructions that are given, and not through words or through logical presentation, but something just to feel within and feel the touch of the divine through such illumined life. So we shall think about it for a few seconds, and in case if you have any questions, feel free to voice them or to type them. Yes, please. Okay.
If Thakur gave away 11 ochre cloths, why did they only have one at the Baranagar Math?
Why did they have?
They had to use the same cloth to go out, right?
Well, so?
What happened to all the others?
No, he gave 11 these 11 of those boys, each of them was given one cloth. Yeah.
But they only had one between all of them.
No, that was the cloth that was to be used to go out, it is that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No other question here. Any question upstairs? No questions. Okay. So we shall now conclude with the closing prayers. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.